Yes, guys, welcome back to another video, another podcast here. The 3 More Points podcast is officially back today. Harry has been on his escapades, vacating all over the world, and he has come back specifically because talking about Chelsea has now become a wonderful thing. And today we're going to, of course, go into details of the Man City game, how we look moving forward, individuals, mentality, everything. Because I might have the hammer, which is a connotation of negativity, potentially, but I'm only here to hammer in the points. The 3 More Points podcast can be found on Spotify and iTunes. And we've got a couple more plugs for the start of this, but I'm going to let Harry reintroduce himself to the masses once again, because finally we can follow this guy. He's been elusive. He's been everywhere but in front of you on your screens. This is a phone, if you didn't know.
That's my phone, yes.
Welcome back, Harry. It's a real pleasure to have you here again.
I'm delighted to be back in your presence, George.
Will you have a nice trip?
It was a very nice trip, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed myself.
Good man.
Yep.
But now there's other stuff that we need to plug here.
There is.
And it's not just about you, because
No.
I was the first guest on the All Right podcast.
The All Right podcast.
Give us a lowdown.
Yeah, basically it's my podcast. I've been working on the concept for a little while. And I think the first one came out real nice with yourself.
It did.
Yeah, so it's on YouTube. We'll get it in the description.
Yes.
You can follow me, allright_Harry, if you want to come and abuse me. Or I'd rather you didn't, but you know. That's an option, if that's how you want to communicate.
It's doable. He likes that kind of thing. It's the top link in the description. And the second link is what you can see here in the middle camera. Because we've got 3 cameras today, y'all. The All for Nothing Football Manager series. The first episode was out a week ago. That is also linked down below. But without any further ado, we didn't watch this game together because you were in Australia.
I was.
But you got the same feelings as me. Best game of football this season in the Prem after I said that on Monday.
It's amazing, isn't it? Back to back.
Chelsea are involved in some corkers here.
Yeah.
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 What are your top line thoughts?
It was just exciting. It was just, I think, was it you that said that JT came out after the game and said it was the best atmosphere he'd heard in Stamford Bridge in ever or in years or
since
a long
he retired.
Time. Yeah, since he retired. So I think it's that culmination of the feelings we've had around like the frustration, the release of that emotion, and just the excitement when you watch your team put in like a world level performance like that against the best team in the world right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing more exciting than that.
Yeah. I think for me it was mainly just like I said in my previous uploads, it was the start of the game which kind of set the tone. Chelsea were not happy to just let Man City be the dominant possession team. Both of these two sides were 1 and 2 respectively in terms of possession stats on average this season. Chelsea are at home. Stamford Bridge crowd, Sunday evening, under the lights, the clocks are changed, and it feels like this was set up to be a proper classic Premier League game of football. And Chelsea were the ones who wanted to set that tone, which I think we could have been too respectful to see. We could have been like, oh, well, we've not been playing very well recently. Results have been up and down. Where are we at? And I think the way that we set out from minute number 1 was to remind City, look, all right, you've won a ton of trophies. You've beaten us 6 times in a row since we beat you in the Champions League final. We've not scored in any of those games, but we're here to give you a game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to say Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, Arsenal. We haven't lost any of those games. And that's from game week 1 till now, through all the rocky periods we've had. So for me, it's now conclusive. We are ready to play against big teams. We perform better against big teams.
Yeah.
And we've got really, really good players. The first point we're going to talk about today is the performance. And I just wanted to get that out there because we're good. We're actually good.
Yeah.
And looking ahead, it's going to be how do we deal with the other things we talked about. But let's talk about that performance first because it was just so exciting and so good to watch. I wanted to ask you, what were your feelings and emotions when the game kicks off and you can see from minute 1 we are in their faces, we are aggressive, we're physical.
I think for me it was because I've not been going to bed very late recently. I've got a new little schedule. I go to sleep before 10 p.m, which is amazing. It was 12:30 a.m. kickoff for me here. So I was tired, but immediately I woke up. And I think that was the key point. I've already said it here today already, but like we came out the blocks. I thought that Reece James was going to be up against Jeremy Doku. I think immediately you could see there that it's like, well, talk about Reece James respecting Doku. We see how great he was, why City bought him. Last week, it was in front of our very eyes just how great this guy can be. But Reece is like, I'm the Chelsea captain. You're not going to be skinning me I'm going to be skinning you.
I'm the best right back in the world.
I'm the best right back in the world, and I'm fit again, and I'm strong again, and I'm ready to destroy you. And I think that got me flipping excited.
You're getting me pumped right now. Let's go.
I should bring the hammer out when I'm saying these things and look down into the mic. But like, overall, I think the energy that Chelsea showed, it wasn't just Reece, it was everything. We overran Manchester City in the midfield. Rodri was the only recognised defence-based midfielder in that team. Bernardo Silva, who can do basically anything on a pitch with a football, was swarmed, really. And I think the fact that it was Gallagher who was the standout performer again in this midfield is the most exciting thing, because we always talk about, yes, we want to see players performing. Yes, we've spent 200 million on Enzo and Caicedo. But right now, I think when you think about this collective Chelsea energy and feeling after the Tottenham win, after the Man City performance and the result, which a draw against Man City, scoring 4 goals, is bloody good.
It's incredible.
So I think, for me, it's about the energy that is shown by the players, and specifically when it is Reece, Connor, where it's like, right, these guys are Chelsea boys. We're fighting for the shirt now. These are the role models that the new guys, the young kids who have come and joined us, are looking up to and saying, well, okay, this is the standard. So for me, what makes this even more exciting and makes me even more optimistic to look forward is it's those two in this game, and Cole Palmer.
Standard
Sterling,
bearers.
We'll talk about
Standard bearers.
Absolutely. And that's what we need.
I was just going to say that watching the game, watching the way that City chose to play against us, I actually think that Pep, I know he was saying all the right things about, Chelsea, one of the best clubs in the last 20 years, all this stuff. I actually think they massively underestimated us. I don't think he thought we could hurt them like that, but we really hurt them. I mean, we were... The passing accuracy was the best thing for me. In amongst that physicality, the way we were able to still complete our passes and play out of tight spaces, find a way out from the back, go direct. There was great decision making on display, and the way that Poch set us up was absolutely perfect. And you were just mentioning that Conor Gallagher just then. I was saying to you earlier, it really reminded me of that role that Park Ji-sung had in that Man United side, where he'd bring that high intensity.
Great comparison.
He'd do that hard graft, that hard defensive work, but also he brought enough quality. And I just wonder if moving forward, I don't want to start talking about that too much because we're talking about the performance right now, but if moving forward it's a case of like, okay, we're like really ready for these big games. We've got amazing, important players. It's maybe just adding a couple more, I want to call them luxury players, to help us break down those small teams.
Which we so happen to have.
We do. We're just waiting on them.
At the disposal.
We're just waiting on them. But anyway, back to the Man City performance. It was just, I'm struggling to find the words to describe it. It was so satisfying. Of course, there's still individual errors in there. They shop against a small team that counterattacks. They're going to shop against Manchester City. Of course they are.
Yeah.
But first goal, ridiculous. A ridiculous penalty. There was never a penalty.
Never a pen. We got to talk about Anthony Taylor as well. Let's just tangent for a second, because I got it out of my system in the 6 things, but I want to get back in on him. How the hell does this guy referee in the Championship, and then all of a sudden they're like, "You all right, mate? Yeah, we want to put you on the big dog next week."
Yeah.
Chelsea, Man City, him refereeing a Chelsea game in the first place is an absolute sin against all of humanity, not just Chelsea fans, because I think if you want to talk about integrity in football, you want to talk about the serious issue with the standard and the quality right now, there's at least got to be a look back through time to understand that there are certain referees who have track records and histories of having bias against certain teams. There is not a single person, I don't think, anymore that can disagree with a Chelsea fan's sentiment when we say Anthony Taylor should not be allowed to referee Chelsea games. So even in contentious moments like Cucurella on Erling Haaland, there's only one way that's going to go. Yeah. In every single sense.
And by extension, he just shouldn't be a Premier League referee.
He's not
or maybe
good
a
enough.
referee at any top level. Like, it's just, you perform badly in your job, you lose your job.
I will say that I think on the balance of the game, though, he refereed it relatively well. Mm-hmm. But it's the big moments, again, which... Why should we be talking about 4-4 and still have to bring up wrong decisions?
I just can't go over that moment, though, because the number of times you see a tussle like that in the box and it comes to absolutely nothing, because it was a tussle. It wasn't like Cucurella. It's not like he's driving through Cucurella and Cucurella pulls him down. It's literally a tussle, and Cucurella has the last touch on Haaland's shirt. He goes down. It wasn't cheating or anything like that, but... the fact is, it was a coming together of two players in the box, as you see constantly in modern-day football. if that hadn't been given, no one would have said anything about it.
Yeah, no.
But it was given, so people are saying, oh, it's a harsh one. But no, there's no but. It's just not a penalty. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
no, I agree. Fully agree with that. But overall, though, I think maybe Chelsea needed to go 1-0 down.
Yeah.
I think what we showed as a result of it, and I think, again, like with goals that you conceding a penalty that Erling Haaland wins and scores, you kind of expected that at least one of those to happen every time you play against this City team.
Yeah.
So I think as a result of that, the balance of the game was still in Chelsea's favour.
Yeah.
I think City came into it a bit more in like between the 10th and 20th minutes, but I think overall Chelsea were managing man for man and spatially, as well as like the way that City were coming forward enabled Chelsea to be much quicker on the rotation.
Yeah.
Which again, I think Enzo and Caicedo, just a little point on those two, they need to be quicker in those turnovers when we're now under the cosh.
Yeah.
Because at the minute, Enzo for me is way off right now. And I've been saying this for weeks, and I do think against the team of runners and legs like City have, it shows even more the pace of the Premier League and how Enzo pretty much needs to just get a bit fitter potentially. He's been coming off too.
The only thing I would say is that clearly we need someone to perform that role. Without him in the team, there's no one else that can do it to any kind of level, really.
Yeah.
To be that playmaking central midfielder who can move between the 6 and the 8 and potentially the 10. So he still deserves his place, but I agree with you, like, relative to the performance we actually need in that position, like his performance level can be a lot higher.
Yeah.
But we still need his profile in the team, and he is the guy we have. So we're just going to have to really back him and hope that he can improve a little bit. But yeah, he's still quality, obviously, and it's there.
I'm not doubting him. I don't think he should be dropped.
That's just to be clear, though. We're not doubting him. It's just.
Yeah.
We need a bit more.
More. Like, and that's the thing. Like, when you got a performance like this one that is just like tactically, I'd say perfect. So close to executing the perfect result, which is 3 points. Like, if you beat City, it doesn't matter if it's 1-0 own goal, 4-3, 5-0, 7-1. Doesn't matter what the score is, you've beaten Manchester City. And I think even with the stuff we've analysed already, it's like, no penalty, it's 4-3. Football obviously doesn't work that way. But at the same time, a little bit more quality from players that we know have that quality. And bloody hell, are Chelsea a formidable team already, with still like a teething period, a nurturing period, young players that are still figuring out who they are on a football field.
Yeah, definitely.
With all of that being said, I feel as though this was a turning point for Pochettino, because everybody was able to take their individual instructions without jeopardizing the team's shape.
Yeah.
Which for me was the brilliant thing to look at. The way that we controlled that midfield was immense.
And seeing the way that the players carried out those tactical solutions and instructions as well. I just wonder what you thought about the way that the two teams went against each other. I did say before, I wonder if Pep underestimated us, but I'm also sort of wondering how he was really approaching that game, because there's an argument that he didn't prioritise possession because he started Doku over Grealish, and he was maybe thinking like, right, we can catch them on the counter-attack here. But then there's also the argument that he still wanted to control possession, but we just simply did not allow it, and our performance was that good. And that's what I would tend to lean towards. Like, I think our performance was just really, really good. And every single team we've played that's the top team this season, we've spoiled their midfield.
And we played better against every one of them. Liverpool, we deserve to win.
Yep.
Arsenal, we should have won, but lapse of concentration ruined it.
Confidence
Spurs,
was low
we
going
them.
into that game as well. So
Yeah.
it was like we were not being backed at all against Arsenal. You know, went into that game and then, you know, it just wasn't there. Like, I was shitting myself before that game. Excuse me.
The Arsenal one.
Yes, I was. I was like, this is going to be bad. But then we went and we completely outperformed them. I think if we had a bit more belief, we would have got over the line. The Spurs game was really, really weird. So it's kind of hard to judge it, but still, we were competing in that game well. And then we've gone again and done it today. So today.
Yeah. Each one of those, I think, is like an evolution of an early Pochettino team.
This was the best performance.
Best performance in 2 years.
Yeah.
Period for me. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen, and again, atmosphere. The people that go to Stamford Bridge, they go a lot. They know what they want to watch. They know what the energy around the team is like, and it's reciprocated by then the actions of the fans. And for JT to say best atmosphere in 2 years, I've been up into a 4-4 at Stamford Bridge. A 4-4 is an enthralling game of football, whether it's dead, boring, bad quality or not.
Yeah.
But this genuinely was the best team in the world that we're playing against, the treble winners.
And
And we do that.
And the best goals we've scored all came in one game. These were proper goals.
Yeah.
Proper goals. They weren't, there wasn't really any luck involved in any of our goals. In fact, they were the ones that scored the lucky goals with the deflections and whatnot.
Yeah, contentious penalties and Haaland putting it in somehow.
Proper chance creation, which is what we've been crying out for.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the performances of some individuals. I want to start at the back with Reece James. That timeout that he's had, that performance he put in, he's a freak, isn't he?
He's a freak. He's a freak who just needs to keep it freaky. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't be the kind of freak where you got your kneecaps and you got a hammer and you just got like this weird tendency to just want to hit them. Just don't get injured, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like with Reece, I've never ever doubted him. Even when he was at Wigan, I was looking at what he was doing and I'm like, this guy's a beast. Like he's bossing the Championship. I don't know how old he was at the time, like maybe 18, 19 or whatever. He's ready. He's built for this. But if he can stay fit, then I think there's no reason why Chelsea won't rocket up this league right now.
He makes that much difference. And
yeah, he's just world class.
And as he's not my favourite person, but as Gareth Southgate pointed out, it's going to be interesting seeing him play as a fullback rather than a wing back. And he is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a player.
I don't think there's much more else to say. Just stay fit, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Please.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago we were sort of saying, wow, Malo Gusto, unbelievable prospect at right back. Unfortunately for him, he's got, in my mind, the best right back in the world ahead of him.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I'd define it that. When he's fit, 100%.
He's a freakish footballer. So I thought the Cucurella did pretty well at the back, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
It was not easy. It was quite an open game. I think because I've given him so much criticism, and everyone has, it's worth mentioning that he played pretty well.
I think so. I think when you got Walker, Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez kind of swarming at you, I think City realised quite quickly, all right, Doku up against James, we're going to have to try and utilise this right side a little bit more. Let's isolate Cucurella and then force Silva, Sassy to have to come over there, Caicedo, Enzo, whatever. Chelsea dealt with it relatively well, but City are always going to hurt you. But I think individually, Cucurella brings a defensive balance because he knows he's not necessarily the best going forward. Reece can do that on the right side, which then again, when you think about the way that the midfield all kind of like move together and they're starting to connect together now, where it's like if Gallagher's going to do the running, then Caicedo knows where to be. If Caicedo's going to be there, then Enzo's ready to pick up the ball. It was protection for Cucurella, but also freedom for those pockets when James comes a bit more inside or when James is further forward wide and then Palmer comes inside. Overall, the cogs are all turning now. The cogs are all moving in the right direction. And a lot of that is down to A, the quality of the players, but B, Pochettino has clearly been hammering home individual roles within the bigger picture of a system, which is why we look so comfortable against these big teams, because Poch will approach these games tactically, in my opinion, with a plan based on what he knows the opposition are going to do. With City, that's the hardest thing to do because you don't know what they're going to come with. I did not expect Man City to play one defensive midfielder. And I think if Stones would have been in there, it could have been a totally different story this game because of how much protection they'd have had. And it would have been so much more difficult for Chelsea to overrun them. That's what I think. But Rodri, I think, was struggling because we just simply didn't give up.
Oh, the intensity we brought. I was actually on the plane yesterday. I was listening to Johnny Boone McKell's new podcast, The Obi-Wan. It's really good. He had Terry on the first episode. He had Lampard in the second episode.
What a boss.
And they were talking. He was talking with Lamps about, I think it was the Lampard one. They were talking about how would their Chelsea team have gone against this City team. And Mikel just kept saying, yeah, but we were big, strong boys. He kept saying we were big, physical boys, and we always had that power. And I'm seeing a little bit of that in the team now, like that power that we've got.
Steel, isn't
There's
there?
a bit of power in there.
Yeah.
And it's something that you need, and it's something we've just sorely missed last season. And for the last couple of years, we've been missing that physicality in the middle. Look, Jorginho had a decent Chelsea career, but I used to get so frustrated at his lack of physicality.
Yeah.
And when I look at us now, we've got proper athletes in the middle of the pitch.
It's harder to bully us though. Like when you play against, when like we had a good team, when we won the Champions League, when you think about that midfield, Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho, very rarely did we ever get them all three firing on the pitch at the same time.
Yeah.
Injuries, Chelsea, same old story.
Yeah.
But like we would get bullied. Like even City. Like remember that 6-0? The midfield was non-existent.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for years. And I think people have been judging this midfield, Enzo Caicedo, so heavily on the amount of money. Carragher kept saying it in the commentary on Sky. It's like, well, you think with the amount of money, blah, blah. I'm like, forget the amount of money. The profiling is spot on right now. And I think it's been Gallagher's development and Gallagher's performances this season that have enabled people to maybe shut up now about the money. Stop talking about Caicedo and Enzo as flops, or well, Enzo don't assist, he don't score, and Caicedo gets sent off or gives away this. Shut up, mate.
Well, if
Gallagher's the boss, mate.
If Enzo and Caicedo are worth 100 million each, what is Conor Gallagher worth right now?
I can't believe that Tottenham thought 40 million would do it in the summer. You bunch of mugs, mate. You silly little boys, Angie Postecoglou. You aren't getting him whatsoever. Right now, he's undroppable in this Chelsea team, which is so exciting because then
what is he, a 70 million pound central midfielder now?
I mean, define 70 million. Like, how long's a piece of string? How far do you want to go with it? Like, at this point in time, he's bossing the best teams in the world. Arsenal are up there. Liverpool, class. Tottenham,
I love Lawrence. City. I love Lawrence Alcott, but
James Lawrence Alcott.
Apologies, James Lawrence Alcott. I do love his videos. However, he called Gallagher a bit untidy, and I think a lot of people got triggered in the comments by that. I don't think he's untidy at all. I think he's excellent.
I think he's tidy at being untidy.
That's fair.
Like when they say organised mess.
Hot mess.
Yeah, like my bedroom is an organised mess, all right? I don't fold everything up and hang up my T-shirts. They're just where I need to be. Gallagher's that guy. He's not the T-shirt folder.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's okay with that.
Okay, so we've covered those positions. I'm so smug about Cole Palmer. I'm so smug about him because of the price, because of the performance, how a certain Mason Mount's getting on at Manchester United. And that's obviously the direct comparison because he's the guy that's been playing in that sort of like midfield, sort of wide/10 role for the last couple of years. How good is he?
Mate, Cole Palmer is a special player. Like, he's my favourite Chelsea player. Now, like Hazard was, Kante was, Cole Palmer's now that guy for me. I just think I love watching him play. Like there was a comparison the other week with Kevin De Bruyne, which I was like, okay, well, let's just give it some time before we start throwing KDB's comparison out. 8 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, involved in everything that Chelsea do. The most likely to do anything in terms of the final third creation. He looks brilliant when he gets the ball out onto that left foot. He's got like a little wand. Do you remember when Matic used to hit that ball with his left? And because he was so gangly and long, like the way he would like wrap his left foot around a football was just like a joy to watch. Palmer's got that kind of little nuance ability to the naked eye that's also brilliant. But for me, this game, it was all about the way that he positioned himself. And when Reece was getting forward, Vardy didn't know what to do. Ruben Diaz didn't know what to do. Rodri didn't know what to do because he would just drop into like a little pocket of space inside from where Reece was. There was no overlaps because that's where Chelsea has struggled. It's like, well, yeah, we're going to get the ball out wide, but then it's going to be one of those kind of crosses again where Jackson is a bit too stick thin in the middle and you got Ruben Diaz attacking the ball. Vardy like trying to attack the ball to get rid of it. So when Cole Palmer does that, freedom for Reece. When he also does that, he's an outlet. He's an option. He can get that ball in a dangerous area. City defenders have to come to him because they know his ability, and then it frees up space for everybody else. Brilliant.
Cole Palmer, for me, he's inevitable, mate. He is inevitable. They know Cole Palmer inside out of Manchester City, and they couldn't do a thing about him. There was a moment when he ran through the middle, and he knocked like 4 or 5 players off the ball. Just great strength. He caught his ankle got caught on one of the defender's boots just before he went to shoot. Yeah. Just before he went to shoot. If that goes in, if he just dinks that, we are crying with laughter and just joy. But he is such a good player. Like, it's just, I say Mason Mount, I say Kai Havertz. That's the best piece of business the new owners have done so far. 40 million quid for him. Yeah, he looks incredible.
And the ceiling as well. Like when you're a player who's that young, you're playing like this now. Like, we keep talking about Poch building something. People are using something special happening at Chelsea, all of this stuff. But it's like the scary thing about the potential of this team is, as a team, we're looking like a team and they're playing like a team. And it brings us on to the mental strength part that we're going to talk about in a minute. But, like, overall, the ability of each one of them, especially Cole Palmer, it's actually scary how good this kid can be. Because Kevin De Bruyne, okay, you've got to be delivering goals and assists to be compared to Kevin De Bruyne. Now he's doing exactly that too. So it's like, how good could he be?
We'll find out. I want to ask you about, because it's been the biggest problem with Chelsea for a while now, mental strength.
Yes.
The resilience that we have not shown for a long time was massively there on display. City go 1-0 up and we respond immediately. Talk to me about the mental strength of those players.
I want to hammer this home big time, because this has been the gripe that I have had for so long. Like, we are so mentally weak when we go 1-0 down. And to be quite honest, even when Haaland scored that penalty, I just had a little feeling it was going to be a bit different this time. And I think that is a lot to do with the atmosphere. If I was watching the game on mute and I didn't hear what John Terry came out and said as well, I would have been like, oh, good God, what are we going to do here? Because like, you go 1-0 down against City, a lot of teams capitulate completely. And you would say that the mould of Chelsea in recent times would suggest that that was going to be the same again. Absolutely not. Roll up Thiago Silva. And I think it is just such poetic justice that when we're talking about such improvements in the mentality, that it is the Mr. Mentality who manages to score that goal. It's wonderful. Gallagher with the corner. It's clearly something that's been worked on in training. Cucurella is being a nuisance. Thiago Silva is kind of like Ratatouille trying to go in and steal a load of flipping food from a restaurant. And he's getting in the front there of all of these big Man City defenders. And he just nods it in. Edison's got absolutely no chance. And then the crowd goes flipping wild. And then once again, the tone is set for a magical night at Stamford Bridge. That mentality that was on show there is everything that Chelsea need to do. If we can have that kind of attitude, then we're going to start breaking low block teams down, because as a result of having the crowd on side, it's all about the energy, right? Stamford Bridge is a horrible place for teams to go when the crowd are backing the players. The crowd back the players when they can clearly see that there is 100% effort from everybody as a collective and individually. And that is where Chelsea have gone wrong in games that weren't this Manchester City game. We have not looked as though there are enough players out there that minute by minute, moment by moment, decision by decision, give enough shits, basically, to fight it and to work on it and to try and come up with new strategies when things aren't working. This City game, like you said already about the goals that we scored, they're all different kinds of goals. You've got the first one, which is a Thiago Silva. When was the last time we scored a goal like that from a corner?
Yeah, a while.
I can't remember. Sterling then holding a run brilliantly. Reece James bombing forward. We scored a Man City goal against Man City with a former Man City player. That's how good that was.
The intensity the players showed to create that opportunity. Reece James pushing Vardiol all the way back.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Jackson scores a proper striker's finish, and then we score a well-deserved penalty emphatically in the 95th minute.
And I've never seen a clearer penalty than that. Even Anthony Taylor had to give that one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm surprised he didn't book Broja for diving or trying too hard or whatever, but like
trying too hard.
Everything about that game was everything that we've wanted to see. And that's the thing, right? We didn't even win. Like, we're talking here in terms of like enthusiasm as if we just beat Man City. We didn't, but we didn't need to. You don't expect to win that game. If we'd have lost that game, I'd have just been like, all right, cool, it's going to be another long 2 weeks, but get it over and done with. Like, we'll go there and we'll hopefully be in a better place. It was all about the performance here. We deserve to win that game, be it with all the decisions that went and take them away, we won.
Yeah, 100%.
Awful analysis, I know, but like that was how good we were.
Yeah, and for me, the sort of visual display of that mental toughness, that drive, was the pressing in the game. We were at them all game. We were at them. It was so intense. It was so impressive to see. It was just immensely satisfying to watch that energy we brought to the game. And like, it's one of those where I never want to watch Chelsea lose, but if I'm gonna watch Chelsea lose, I want to see us lose like that.
Yeah, valiantly. Yeah, fight to the very death. Sassy as well. I think he's one of the only players you've not mentioned so far. He's got that bit about him as well, you know. Like, there was one, I thought they were going to give a handball even though it hits him in the face, just because that's what you expect when you've got an absolute turnip as a referee. But, like, Sassy's got this grit, this strength, and, like, you see the way he celebrates goal. I love this about Sassy. He's always the first one over to the player who scores. He's got this massive grin on his face. I think mentally, we've got to a point now where everybody is bought into this idea. You know, we could tentatively as fans react to the idea of a process, and we can throw it under the bus and get peed off with it when we lose, and we can believe it when we win. But now, win, lose or draw,
we've seen it.
We're seeing it. Like you can say one thing, do another. Make sure your words align with your actions. Quote basically from the podcast, the All Right podcast. Congruence. That's it. That's exactly where we're at right now. And I think what Pochettino has been saying, which can kind of sound a bit like fluff to a lot of us when results are bad and clearly the performances have been bad, now we can actually believe it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like when someone says something special is happening here, like Arsenal, people said it under Arteta when they started to turn and like results became more consistent. For Chelsea, it's been about, right, let's make consistent the fight. Make the performances get consistently better and make sure everyone's given 110 and results will come. Proof is in the pudding last week. 4-1 win at Tottenham. 4-4 against Man City. We scored 8 goals in 7 days. Mental.
Yeah.
When was the last time we could say that?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Before we move into point number 3, we didn't actually mention, I wanted to mention in the individual section, and the performance was Nicholas Jackson. And I feel like he's a great player to talk about in this mental strength point because he is someone who's had a huge amount of criticism. He's coming as a fairly unproven player to be the forward for Chelsea right now. And he is trying, if nothing else, he is trying super hard.
Yeah.
The amount of running he did in that game was huge. And the anticipation he showed for the goal was proper striker play. And I say fair play to him. His numbers are up. He's looking a lot better. I still don't know if he's the right guy, but I just think it's fair to say like he's part of the group for sure. And great mental resilience from him to put in a performance.
Yeah, it's flip-floppy from fans. And I mean, I'll get called out for this a lot because even last week after that game, I didn't pick him to start because I didn't think Pochettino would have enough about him yet with the way that the season's gone to be able to change what worked so well against Arsenal.
Yeah, agreed.
And then play something so, all right then, against Man City.
Fair enough, though. Fair enough. Like,
yeah.
Pochettino is in control of this team.
100%, which is why players like Jackson, who I agree with you, I'm still not 100% sure long-term for... Okay, not long-term, but like medium-term.
Yeah.
The rest of this season, next season, is he going to be at a good enough level to get Chelsea back right in the top 4? I don't know about that yet. He's had a great week, don't get me wrong, but this is, again, the flippant nature of how we react to things. No one's ever doubted his efforts. But when it comes to being a top striker, not just a top striker, but a striker playing for a club with ambition to be a top club within the league that he's in, Chelsea couldn't just praise effort. We can't, as fans, just be like, well, he's trying really hard and the goals are going to come. Now the goals have come. 4 goals in a week against the 2 strongest teams in the league. That is proper striker delivery. And the interesting thing is, I firmly back him to continue this now because that's how strikers always work. Any good striker you've ever watched will talk about how the only thing that motivates a striker is scoring goals. Doesn't matter how they come in, doesn't matter which part of the body they go in off of. It's all about scoring and seeing your name on that sheet. Yeah. Because if he keeps scoring, he keeps playing. He's got Nkunku coming back too to worry about.
And if he's going to, because he was a winger before, he became a striker for a little bit and then we signed him as a striker. If he's going to become a proper striker, goals need to become his currency. Like, I understand, like, you want the hard running, you want that stuff, and it's amazing to see him doing that, and he can clearly play a role in the side at times, but he's got to just keep banging in the goals now. That's how he moves forward. But I just thought fair play to him, especially the number of strikers we've seen come to Chelsea start in a bad way and never quite find their feet and never quite find their confidence. So fair play to him.
And then they're gone. They got Alvaro Morata, for example. I remember being at Stoke. That was a great game. He scored a hat-trick. Then I'm like, bloody hell, we've got a striker here. But like, it's the attitude. Jackson's attitude is undeniable.
That's the point.
He is just so into this. Like, you see the comments he said after Spurs?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's... Okay, yeah, we want to hear
proper
it.
Chelsea.
But it's proper Chelsea.
It's
Do you know
proper
what I mean?
Chelsea.
Like, this guy is the real deal.
And that's the thing. Just gas me right now. I need that. We've all needed this.
Yes, that's what makes this even better. It's like, okay, we can hear good words. We can get gassed on good words. But then when we see good performances, then we're actually gassed. Yeah. Like the video. Subscribe if you are new whilst the energy is high. Brilliant from Nicholas Jackson, although not much else was great. But then he got marked out of the game. Fair enough. It's Man City.
I mean, leading the line against City is always going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So point number 3, it's more of a question than a point, but how do we look? How do we move from here, George?
Oh, I mean, I think relegation, we're probably over it now. I do expect a few more defeats. No, I'm joking. I think you look at the fixtures. We're now midway through this spell.
Right, yeah, you say look at the fixtures. This is interesting.
The fixtures are Newcastle away, Brighton at home, Manchester United away, and then I believe we start to get some tasty ones. We've got Sheffield United.
But I actually see those as tasty ones because of the way we work.
This is why this is such a great topic for this podcast today, because Newcastle away.
That's tough. But they have got some injuries at the moment.
Yeah, theoretically though, and I've said this the whole time, out of Tottenham away, City at home, Newcastle away, that as a trio in a row is by far the hardest. Brighton have not been that great recently. United are rubbish.
Yeah.
So we have got here the team that can defend their asses off when they need to, but can also be blisteringly strong going forward and scoring tons of goals this season.
Yep.
That is the test. And I think you can argue that international breaks can come and go at the right and the wrong times. For Chelsea right now, I'd say it's the wrong time. But also, there's a lot to process. There's a lot of analysis that will need to be done about why. We can have our little say here about like who was good individually, why was this bit of the play against City so good. Pochettino now has 2 weeks where not everyone's going away on the internationals, and he can really home in.
Shout out Reece James.
Shout out Big Reece for not playing for England. But like now we can really home in on the struggles that we've seen against those low blocks, to anticipate that for Newcastle. Add on to that, it's like a little bit of salt and pepper on an egg. You add into that the confidence that the team now actually do have in front of goal, which wasn't there when we were losing to Brentford's, Forest, and Villas. So you got that bit. You've then now got, if Newcastle come out at St James's Park, which their fans are desperate for them to do, and keep trying to play, keep trying to score, keep trying to dominate and obliterate teams, now we know how to deal with that too. So that result against Spurs and the result against City, for me, have now facilitated necessary confidence as a fan that we can go to Newcastle and win. The interesting thing also about this game is that you've got Christopher Nkunku expected to be ready and fit enough to play.
Let's go!
And he, for me, is the low block key. He is the little cog that's necessary to start seeing Chelsea beat teams. Come back here, you little cat.
You all need to understand that this series is worth watching, so keep looking at it.
We need this on the screen because we need you to watch it. All right? It's a card on the screen as well.
It's really fun.
In the description. But, who the bloody hell was that? Don't worry about him.
Don't worry about nothing, mate.
That is the exciting part now. Christopher Nkunku is a player.
So we touched on it earlier. That's stylistically we're looking so good against these big sides, and I think that's because like our pressing is probably our best thing in those games. Like the way that Conor Gallagher gets into that 2 at the front, and it's just so intense and it just works. And Caicedo is just like, we're not saying loads about him, but he is proving why we spent the money on him. He's brilliant in the middle. But okay, so then you look at it and you go, right, that's how we beat these big sides. I see Conor Gallagher having a role in this Chelsea squad now for a very long time because of what he can bring in those big games. And we said before, who's the one to drop out? And I've been so adamant it can't be Gallagher. But at the same time, we are going to have a few more luxury players. I call them luxury players in inverted commas on the pitch when we play those teams that sit in more of a low block. And that is the question on how we look from here. We've talked about it so much. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. But I'm so excited right now. But I'm just very aware that I want to get super excited. But that's the key now. How do we go and beat those teams that we're better than on paper?
Yeah, and I think, would you say Chelsea on paper are better than Newcastle right now? Because Newcastle they've been good. They were on a good run. They've lost their last 2.
They've got some key injuries. They're missing Botman. They're missing Byrne. So they've had to move the back line around.
Will they still be injured? Do you know?
I know Botman's definitely out.
That's good.
I think Byrne might be out for a little while as well because everyone's talking about Livramento Livramento coming at right back, Trippier possibly moving to left back. Callum Wilson's not been fit. Isaac's not fit. So they're significantly understrengthed, and they rely on those players massively. But you asked me who's better at the moment. Just take that out of it. I think you
don't answer it.
No, I do. I actually think it's really even.
I think it's even too.
I don't think people are going to like to hear that. If we hadn't just had this game, I wouldn't be saying that. I'd be saying City are better than us. But everything is context and everything is form. And I do think that right now it's a pretty 50-50 game.
Yeah, I think it could
especially
go
with
one
those
of 2
injuries.
ways. you also got to cater in like
Well,
Chelsea.
it could go one of three ways, technically, George.
It can, yep. This game of two halves can go one of three ways. Basic football analysis with me. But I do think, like, for example, even if we would have lost 4-3 to City, if Palmer doesn't score the penalty or if the penalty doesn't happen, there's still more than enough positives for this Chelsea team. And, like, we've seen it before. Like, there sometimes can just be one game that is the game. Like, look at Conte, for example. Lose to Arsenal, get absolutely humiliated. Mesut Ozil actually showed up. And then all of a sudden it's like it's a tactical change. But with Chelsea, I don't think necessarily we need more tactical changes. I think now we've found a system. I think we've found something that works, and I'm delighted that it includes having 4 defenders instead of 5. Like, I think that was a big thing for me, was like, all right, well, we can't break down a low block, but like, well, we've got more centre-backs on the pitch than people that can score goals. Now we've kind of got over that little hump. I think it's just simply now ride the wave. Don't lose to Newcastle, but don't let that idea of this, don't lose to Newcastle, impact the way that we play.
Yeah.
We have to be confident that we can beat anybody now.
I'm going to make a shout here.
Go on.
I think we win the next 3.
You think we beat Newcastle?
I think we win the next 3.
People are going to hate this, you know. People don't like these kind of optimistic.
I do not care. Even when we were on our bad run, we beat Brighton in the Cup.
We did, yeah.
I think that they leak goals. They don't sit deep. That's not how they play. So I really fancy us against them. I think we're going to smash United. I think we could beat them 3-0.
This is coming from me. I'm looking at the camera right now. I'm like, I love this. I really do. I love the optimism.
Because I'm also, but it's logical. I'm actually looking at the profile of these fixtures and I'm saying, what have we got here? I think Newcastle's the hardest game out of those 3 by far.
By a long way.
Because I think they have the capacity to sit in, and that's what we struggle against. But Brighton don't, and United are rubbish. So I think we're going to smash all 3 of them. I think we're going to win 3 in a row. And for me, the big confidence thing for me is having Reece James back. That dynamic of Cole Palmer being able to tuck inside, Reece overlap, that's huge. And we haven't really spoken about Raheem Sterling. And so much of how well we do depends on him because he's the guy that can get goals in this team.
Yeah.
And he's just had his best performance of the season, probably his best performance in a Chelsea shirt. So that's the second time I think I've said that this season.
Burnley was great too.
He was phenomenal, but it was Burnley.
Yeah.
So,
true.
What do you say? So, but he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was so good, man. Like, he made Kyle Walker work in that game. He got his goal.
Yes.
So the feeling is good. The energy's there. Let's go and batter the next 3 opponents.
I absolutely agree. And I would say that was a great place to end. But I want to ask, as a final point here, Christopher Nkunku, if he's going to be ready to play, can you change anything from that Man City team? If everybody that was playing against City is fit, do you play exactly the same 11 against Newcastle? Or does Pochettino have to think again and anticipate Newcastle sitting in and frustrating Chelsea? Because Tottenham didn't, City didn't. We got good results. How many of those kind of results and performances would someone like an Eddie Howe have to look at and be like, right, okay, we're going to have to revert to type here?
He's such a smart manager. I think
Eddie Howe's a fantastic manager.
He's brilliant. And when you look at the tools they got up front, like Gordon's pace, he's absolutely rapid. I'm guessing Almiron will play. He's rapid. They've got a lot of pace. And they've got a good midfield. So I think they'll probably sit in. I think, let's say all things equal and Nkunku's fit, has to start the game ahead of Jackson. Which sounds brutal. Yeah. Still.
Already, like straight away, no Premier League experience, comes straight in and takes over a striker who scored 4 in the last.
If he's fully fit.
Yeah.
If he's fully fit, because like Nkunku has to be in this side. He's going to be in this side. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. So who drops? It's not going to be Sterling. It's definitely not going to be Cole Palmer. And so then it's basically Conor Gallagher or Jackson. Or maybe Enzo, you could argue. Maybe Gallagher plays that Enzo role.
I don't think that's worth the risk.
No. So it's got to be Jackson or Gallagher that drop out the side.
And you can't take Gallagher out.
I will not drop Gallagher.
Gallagher has to play against Newcastle specifically. This is Gallagher's game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tidiness again.
Yeah.
We're going to need that. Newcastle will fight, injuries or no injuries. That is going to be a battle.
Hey, he's finding end product now as well. 2 assists last game. He's getting returns.
Yeah.
So for me, you have to take Jackson out, and I'm sorry, but that's just tough. It's tough. And
tough love.
I mean, but look, take into the context of the situation, the actual situation, the goals that Jackson scored in Nkunku's fitness levels, Jackson will start the game.
Yeah, sure. I think Jackson starts and Nkunku comes
on
the
last half an hour or whatever,
as early as necessary, depending on the trajectory of the game.
Exactly. He's definitely not going to be ready. So this is just like an all things equal world. Yeah. In an all things equal world, we already know Nkunku was, but I think we know Nkunku's a better player than Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah. I don't think I can disagree.
So that is harsh, but that's
to be honest,
the facts
now
of where we
yet.
are.
Yeah, we're in a good place.
We're in a very good place. I'm interested to see if Mudryk can find his way back in as well.
He was also decent enough when against City. Maybe a bit more pressing for me, but we were very good. And I think that is the ideal spot to wrap up this 3 More Points podcast episode on the YouTube channel, on the iTunes, on the Spotify, and various other random audio libraries that I decide to upload it to through Buzzsprout, which maybe none. I don't know. None of you are going to be there anyway. But yeah, Harry, thank you so much for coming on, as always.
Thanks, mate. Very fun. Enjoyed this one.
We should do a couple more of these, I think. It's the international break. Energy is high. People are bored. The weather's getting crappy at home. It's even getting rubbish here in Bali as well. That's why I got a hoodie on today. Because it's raining. Rainy season is upon us.
Weak.
We got all right. No more masculinity discussions for this podcast. We'll save that for the All Right podcast. The link is in the description. It's the first time ever that I've actually done like a long form podcast, which is literally all about me, which is kind of cool. I never liked it.
I nearly made him cry as well.
I did nearly cry as well, and I won't even say what it was about because of course you're going to go there now and watch it, and also check out my cat right here, and watch the All for Nothing. She's not made an appearance in the episode yet, so it's kind of clickbait.
She will though,
but it should be clickbait because it's great. Anyway, I'm waffling. Bye.
Goodbye.